Hi, Mikha des. Hello everyone, I'm Mikha. You're coming to me in VTuber with his head in the clouds since we're always flying planes. Um, I don't know what we're doing today, but I don't think it is flying planes. Oh, I'm doing it? I'm doing what? Quo Rose Network. Huh? Uh, but I had an idea that came from me buying even more ways to make coffee. I haven't gotten the new way in to make coffee, but I have probably one of the easiest ones. We're gonna start easy with coffee methods. I have this drip coffee maker. Uh, I have a siphon brewer, a mocha pot, and then actually I have two siphon brewers, and then I've got a like more advanced kind of mocha pot on the way, and that one hasn't even shipped yet, but I'm looking forward to trying that one out. But this one is easier because I just need hot water for it. The other ones I need I need a hot plate for, which I actually have a little backpacking stove that will probably work. I just need to test if having it up here, because it's a really tall stove, will work. But for now, I've just got a electric kettle over here, off screen. But yeah, so I have a bunch of ways to make coffee. I enjoy coffee. Uh, I also enjoy tea. I don't have a ton of ways to make tea, but I have a lot of different kinds of tea. I also read a lot of books. Sadly, most of the books that I've been reading recently haven't been exactly peak fiction or anything, but they're fun. I'll talk about them. But let's get our coffee started. Uh, Also, I should say that I am quite a big fan of ASMR. I actually have opinions on which ASMR mics are the best, and I find the humble Tascam is actually quite a good microphone for beginner stuff, especially because it is not too expensive, but it is sensitive enough out of the box to do what you need it to do. And I don't know how much you guys are getting of my fan noise. My computer is right over there. I've got the fans adjusted to be as quiet as possible, but there is only so much I can do. So the CPU is getting a little toasty. But yeah, the humble Tascam is not really too pricey, and it's actually really simple to set up. So it's just I have a mini USB cord connecting it, and once you connect this, um, your computer sees it as both a microphone, like your computer kind of sees it like a headset. So my computer immediately went over to outputting audio to this and also recognizing it as a microphone. So then here, this is headphones direct to me. So I am hearing everything the microphone hears. Although actually I'm hearing, am I monitoring? I'm kind of forgetting how, yeah, I'm monitoring. Ah, yeah, okay. So I'm actually monitoring not direct through the mic, but I'm monitoring through my computer, so I am hearing the microphone with effects. So I've got my Elgato wavelength setup, doing just a little bit of noise processing, but also getting everything to go in neatly. Alright, coffee time. As is typical, I have a beaker of coffee, because what else would I put coffee in, right? And I have a very, very nice, somewhat fancy electric kettle that lets me set any temperature I want, which is not needed for coffee, because normally you put drip coffee in pretty much at boiling, but for teas you often want some teas at much lower temperatures. So I think, if I remember correctly, my sencha Japanese green tea is only about 160 degrees Fahrenheit. You watch. I get comments about my watch way more than I expect. You're gonna hear it beep because this is my coffee timer from from yesterday's, so I need to kill that to tell the time. I use this watch so much, because I can just hit. Actually, wrong button. I can just hit, and it starts the stopwatch from any face that I'm on, at least the main face, rather. So I use that to time my siphon brewer coffee whenever I make that. I've had times where I've posted, or whenever I'm doing the stream, someone's like, "Oh, nice watch." And I have had this watch for a couple years, actually, probably about 4 or 5 years now. I used to wear a much more fancy Casio, I think it was a Golf Master. It's a really nice watch, but I couldn't keep it looking clean from the constant wear. And also, it's an analog face, and I cannot tell time with analog faces no matter how hard I try. So then I upgraded to this one, which is just a digital face, but it's got a barometer in it, which is really convenient. It has a thermometer as well, except the thermometer sensor is right above my arm, so it never gets the right temperature. At one point, I had a typical, like, American drip coffee maker, the kind where you put water in at any temperature and you put grounds in and out spits your cup of coffee. But I used it a little bit and I didn't really like it, and it kept sitting around for way too long. So then I got this thing instead, because this takes up about a quarter of the space, and it makes coffee just as good. Honestly, better. Surprise, surprise, I actually have 2 beakers here at my table. I have actually a ton of junk, as you probably can tell from up over here. I have a whole bunch of stuff off screen, many of the typical candidates, we still have this lamp here. I have not put it away yet. It's done dripping enough. And now we've got coffee. Cheers. Coffee. I would have ground the beans on stream, except I couldn't find my manual coffee grinder. I know I have one. I've seen it around. It's piled up somewhere. Stares at Red Bull can. Why are you looking at there's no Red Bull. I haven't had a Red Bull in forever. But yeah, I've got a cheap coffee grinder somewhere, but I couldn't find it, so instead I ordered just a good new one, because I've got a really nice coffee grinder where you have a hopper at the top and you just drop the beans in, and it uses a burr grinder to grind them to the set amount or set size for the grinds. And I've got that where I like it for my siphon brewer. And when I'm making coffee with my siphon brewer, I'm normally making quite a bit of coffee. So I like grinding coffee with that, like once or twice a week, and that's enough coffee to last me until the weekend. But if I'm gonna do things with the mocha pot more, and the soon-to-be fancier mocha pot that I'm getting, those need a different grind size, and so I might as well use a different grinder and just grind it by hand. It's not a big problem. Excuse me, I am a little gunked up today due to allergies. It's the fall season. So now that we have our coffee, it is time for books. Do we want to talk about a good book, or a technical book, or maybe a trashy book? Because I've read a lot of trashy light novels. Trashy. Oh boy. I have to be careful with this one because there are illustrations in it. Actually, there's illustrations in most of these I really shouldn't show. Don't get myself in trouble. Well, the problem is I did take a look through all the illustrations on these, and it's just the way light novels are. Some of these are probably a little questionable, so I'll just be a little careful with them. Alright, here's the first one. This is not a great series. It is kind of fun for a bit. I think I started this series before I had an e-reader, and let me see, I bought a couple of them on my e-reader. I think I have one of them I haven't read yet. let's see. Space Mercenary 5. I think I have a 6. Sit in here. Yeah, this one. Of course, it starts you. Oh, it's volume 8. I should make sure that these illustrations aren't going to get me in trouble. Okay, no. 8 doesn't have any sussy illustrations at the start. Okay. But yeah, I started this series a while back because there isn't really a lot of science fiction isekai. Not that most isekai is really even worth reading at this point. The cover art, the cover art is actually pretty good. Main character, of course, your super OP guy. Then there's the cute girl Mimi, which the way she joins the crew is very questionable, and I will go into that. The book goes to lengths to make it clear that she wants to be there, but if I was in main character's position, I would not be confident about this situation. And then the elf girl in the back also kind of ends up the same way. So it seems like main author kind of likes that trope of how that works. They were born as the strongest starship pilot. Yeah, so the rough plot of it is that main character was playing totally not Elite Dangerous, but with the economic depth of EVE Online. The author wrote this combining Star Citizen, EVE Online, and Elite Dangerous. So, of course, a lot of the space combat comes from that, and most of the space a lot of the setting comes from that. Most of the space combat actually comes from Elite Dangerous, which I frankly think makes it a snore, but also the power fantasy makes it a snore as well. So, main character is playing game, and then suddenly woke up in his fancy ship from the game, and it's real. Well, the problem is that the ship that he has is, it's the size of like a fighter, but it's got the power of a battleship. Okay, thanks, author. That's way fun and balanced. Oh man, your ship is just magically invincible, has all the firepower and the maneuverability. That's a triangle. That's a triangle. You can only pick two of those at the expense of the third. Yeah, it's like that. I said this wasn't a very good series. It was fun to read for a bit. I don't think I'm gonna read too much more of it. I might read the one that I have left. Naturally for me, like on a series like this, I kind of just read through for all the character interactions, and then when a battle scene starts, I just kind of like skim through it and ignore it, because it doesn't really add anything. He's gonna win the battle anyway. There's no stakes. Last starter fighter from the 1980s movie? Yeah, basically. It'll be a slaughter. That's the spirit. But yeah, he like wakes up on a station, and yeah, for your art you've got the character list here. Let me make some space. Space, because it's a Space Mercenary. So, just the characters and the descriptions, really. Main girl is in questionable outfit in the next one. There's some illustrations here and there in this one. Oh yeah, the the Yandere commander who really wants main character. She's best girl, just saying. They love girl, but basically main character, comes up and finds the nearest station and runs into like elf girl, and she explains to him how to join the pilots, the mercenary group, whatever, the mercenary federation. And they go, oh, we need to test your skills. You're going into the simulator, and how you do in the simulator is how highly ranked you are. And it's like, okay, this is going to be interesting, because obviously main character's gonna score really well in the simulator, and he's gonna rank high, right? And I would expect the simulator to just use one standard ship so that everyone's skills can be compared. Well, nope, that's not how it works. You go into a simulator with the ship you own, and then you're ranked based off of that. So he could be a complete dogshit pilot, and because his ship is super OP, he would get a super high rank. Thanks, book. Like there's, as with many of these light novels, there's small things the authors could have done to make to just make things feel a lot better. Like if that in that simulator it had been, you use like the standard beginner ship and we see how far you go, and he's like, yeah, I'm just a really good pilot, I beat the simulator, woo. Then you would know, like, okay, yeah, you are a really good pilot, whatever. Though personally I prefer I prefer to see the main character put in the effort to get the super good piloting skill and the super OP ship. But he goes through that, and then he runs into Mimi, the girl on the cover here, and it's like, oh, her parents died and left their debt to her, and he buys out her debt and goes, hey, you want to join my ship? And right there I'm like, oh god, oh no, oh, you basically just bought her, that's not okay. Like, and then they have a section where she's like, where it goes into the mind of her, and she's like, oh no, this is great, I like the main character, he's totally 3D and all that. But that gets a yikes from me, dog. Elf chick also accidentally blows up her ship and causes a lot of damage, so then main character with his big billions bucks buys out her debt as well, and she joins his crew. And so then you have a double trouble of like, you like bought out both the people on your ship, and like, yes, I know the books make it clear the character is consenting, but you have main character, you have zero way of knowing that they actually are wanting to be there beyond feeling indebted to you. So that's a big problem for me in the series, although I kind of just ignore it most of the time. He does pay them a portion out of whatever he makes, but yeah, it's got all the stumbling points of an isekai power fantasy, pretty much. Isekai power fantasy where the main character is really way too good at everything and has a really powerful ship, but because he doesn't have, it never goes into the trappings of like, oh, well, you only have a good ship and that's all that makes you powerful, so if that's gone, then you're screwed. Ooh. So it's a little fun. I'd say maybe give it one book, and if you're lukewarm on it, just like stop unless you really want to read it. I kind of like the characters a little bit, but they just keep adding more characters and like nothing ever goes anywhere. So, and I guess it does get props, because it's not nothing goes anywhere because like, oh, well, I want to confess my feelings to him. It's kind of nothing goes anywhere because they bang in the first book, all of them. So there's nowhere to go up. So they have to add new girls for main character to bang, right? That's how it works. All right, let's talk about a good book. Most of these aren't really. Why did I had a segue for these and then I forgot it. Wait. Huh? 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 Coffee's bad for dogs? No, it isn't. This is perfectly fine for me. Coffee is good for dog boys. Oh, okay. I remember my segue here. So I was talking about this, and then my Kindle, of course, closed. I was supposed to talk about this after I talk about the other goofy sci-fi isekai that I am reading. Is this it? I think it is. No, that's volume 8, because this is not my red category. Yeah, I've got my books set up into different categories, so everything I've read is in one category. It's the beautiful spread of like, oh yeah, Magi Brilliant Park, and combatants will be dispatched, and then 3-body problem, and then didn't I say make my abilities average in the next life? Then Flight of the Intruder, Helmet for My Pillow. It's just a huge disparity in what I read. Where was it? I know I downloaded it. I know I set up for this. There it is. Alright, give me X-ray so I can just go view all the images. The evil lord of an intergalactic empire. So this one is actually, which is a reason why I have this other book with me. These are written by the same author, right? Yomu Mishima. Yeah. So this one I'll get into. This one's pretty good, but it has, as it goes on, it's falling into some trappings. This one, Evil Lord of an Intergalactic Empire. This one knows that it is a goofy isekai power fantasy, and the author specifically writ this as an isekai power fantasy where the main character is OP as fuck, because he was writing this and this was starting to fall too much into that, and he wanted to just go wild with it into this one. So with this one he was holding himself back, and I do think that took away from this after a number of books. But this one, he plays full into it, and it is actually pretty fun. The rough plot of this one is there's an anime for this one out. I find it a little bit troubling to recommend the anime with how they did the anime. Like, the entire first episode is just kind of depressing, which the first episode took like what was a page or two of exposition about basically why the main character is depressed, has given up on life, wants to become a villain, and why he has a little bit of a distrust for women, because that's the plot point that stops him from going after all the women that fawn after him in this. He doesn't trust women anymore. The gist of it is, like, he had a terrible wife who was horrible and was cheating on him, and she was cheating on him with his boss, and his boss framed him for embezzling company money and got him fired and ruined his life. And, like, I expect kind of in modern day, a lot of people are going to go, ooh, yikes, that premise is really, really bad, but you can just basically ignore it. You just need the points of main character was cheated by the system, or at least felt he was cheated by the system, and therefore wants to become a villain, because why play nice when everybody else was a villain? So he's gonna play a villain in his next life, and there's a convenient excuse so that he doesn't put his hands on any women, pretty much. aside from his AI doll, because he loves made robots. But yeah, main character dies and then gets reincarnated by the guide who promises that they're going to be like, oh yeah, you can do whatever you want in this next life, it'll be great. And really the guide is reincarnating him so that he can have an even worse life. He'll have a great life to start with, but then the guide will just destroy everything. And the guide is like a deity that feeds on negative emotions, so he wants to savor even more negative emotions from this guy because he's already feasted on him quite a lot. Well, so main character gets reincarnated and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna become an evil lord of my empire, and he's reborn into a feudal system that's an intergalactic empire, and he ends up being in charge of probably the single worst house that exists in the area. His parents, like at the age of 5, tell him, domain's yours, I'm out, peace. And they leave the 5-year-old in charge to run the domain. And there's nothing left for him to squeeze from the domain because his parents have done that already. So for him to be an evil lord and to squeeze his domain of everything that they're worth, he has to first build it up, which is funny because the main like theme of this is that main character is trying to be an evil lord, but for him to actually be an evil lord, he has to be what most people consider a really good and wise ruler first. So like, well, if I want to squeeze all the money out of my people, I could just tax them right now, but they don't have anything. But I could just like raise education standards and get everybody good jobs, and then then the taxes I'm raising is a lot more than they were. And it's goofy stuff like that. There's his maid robot. He got to choose a maid robot at the age of 5, and he gave her all the adult parts because, of course, there's a running gag with this chick. She is an engineer from a weapons factory that can't design good-looking weapons, but they design high-performing weapons, and so she keeps pushing him into buying things. There's the guy in like a suit and a hat. More maid robot. Oh yeah, the maid robot is an AI, and he uses the AI to run his domain a lot, and apparently like everybody, as is typical, everybody frowns on using AI in this society because at some point AI like did bad things, blah 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 blah. That's actually a plot point in this one too. They get a maid robot, and it's like, oh, nobody trusts AI because the war. But Battlestar Galactica kind of started that probably. Oh yeah, there's a whole really goofy setup. Main character goes, I want to learn a sword art because like nobles fight with swords. That's how it works in this universe. Actually, parallels. That's how it works in this one too. These are fairly similar, except one of these is actually well written and knows what it is. But Kita Kita, thank you for the raid. Welcome, raiders. I'm Mikha, your company man, Vtuber with the Southern Clouds. It's always flying planes. We're not flying planes. I'm doing book talk and coffee. How are you? How was DCS? I've forgotten to start up like half of my stream software. I'm sorry. unexecuted. It's not linking okay, but the stream automation stuff will just run. Oh, dang it. That's not what I wanted to do. Oh god, now the fans are kicking in. This is what I get for launching a throwing system. System uses a lot of CPU, but in this main character at one point is like, yeah, I want to learn how to use a sword. I'm a noble. I need to learn sword skills. That's how it works, right? And so he sends for a good sword master to teach him, and who he gets the guide character from before actually. The guide character actually like tries to screw things up, and he sends this guy who's actually just a fraudster. He's just like a petty magician, and so this guy like brings a whole bunch of rigged logs that are already cut in half, and does a setup where he pretends to draw his sword very slightly, and they all get cut in half, and then main character's like, yes, I want to learn this, and they go through years. Also, time span in this, I appreciate that the average human lifespan in this is like 500 years, so like the main character can actually get shit done in his lifespan by the time he's still like not even fully an adult, because it's like, oh yeah, by the time you're not an adult until after you turn 50 in this world. So he spends years studying this, and then actually just learns to be so fast that no one can see him draw his sword and cut things in half, and it's kind of hilarious because everyone's like, there's no way that actually works. There's no way, you can't do that. All of our sensors showed that you didn't actually draw your sword, but main character's just like, yeah, but I'm that fast. Deal with it. And he surprisingly, the series actually kind of brings up the issue of like main character can't spar with anyone with this, because if you aren't like perfectly evenly matched, the other person dies like immediately. There's no like actual sword locking in his strategy. It's kind of funny because that comes up later when there's other people who might have learned the school. Oh yeah, his sword master tells him to get the oldest giant robot, because of course it's got to be a giant robot story too. Tells him to get the biggest giant robot with no assist functions and learn to fly it. So he does that, and then he also becomes a monster, like similar to the other series, similar to this. I kind of just, whenever they go into a battle scene, I just kind of skim through it and don't really care about it, because there's only so much you can write with an isekai power fantasy battle scene and make it interesting, and most of these authors are not good enough at show don't tell to make an exciting battle scene. Yeah, mobile suits. Oh, the other thing that's interesting with this, main character is not an otaku. That is actually really, really weird. So he knows of certain things. It's a convenient way. He knows of certain things as a convenient way to like describe things to the audience, because he has in his past life he had an otaku friend who would explain some things to him. But he personally isn't like, oh my gosh, a girl with cat ears, this is the greatest thing ever. He knows that like his friend said that, oh yeah, evil kings need to get girls with cat ears, that's the rules. And so he's like, well, if my friend said that's what evil lords do, then I'm gonna do that. In this first book, he also just gets stupid overpowered, because like he has the stupid stupid OP mobile suit. He has stupid OP sword skills, and then he finds an alchemy box that can just transform any metal into any other metal. So it's like from book one, there's like no stakes you actually care about. Yeah, it's a wonderful meme. Like, you go into it, you know what it is. It is the author of a book that had stakes, and this one actually has stakes, and it made me worry about it, even though you do kind of know at the end of the day that the main character is going to come through. This one actually has compelling stakes, and it doesn't do them with giant battles, it does them with character drama. This one, the author is like, yeah, all stakes out the window, don't care, this is a pure power fantasy, I'm writing this for fun, and it is fun to read. You just gotta go into it knowing that there's basically no stakes. But it is hilarious because there's shenanigans that go on. Like, he finds 2 different knights, and they become basically like yandere, beholden to him, and they're the 2 most powerful knights basically in the entire kingdom. And then they're constantly fighting with each other because they're like, well, no, I want to be at Lord Liam's side. No, I want to be at Lord Liam's side. Actually, before I go on to the other one, the spin-off, there's a spin-off of that's actually pretty fun to read too. We have that same author's earlier work. So, Trapped in a Dating Sim, the world of Otome games is tough for mobs. The plot of this one is basically the main character was forced by his awful sister to play an Otome game for her because she just wanted all the CGs unlocked, and she didn't want to play through it. But it was also like one of those mobile game gacha pull is not working, but you pulled a common Mikha. I heard it. Good evening, Percival. Good afternoon. How's it going? I have more coffee. I am getting a insulated double-walled glass kind of flask specifically for these kind of streams because like this coffee's gonna go cold pretty quick. Only passing through to say hello. All right. But yeah, main character was made to play a microtransaction full Otome game so that his sister could look through all the CGs. And then, like, right after he finished it, he died by falling downstairs or something. I think that was what it was. But then he wakes up, and he is a random, like, hardly mentioned side character in this Otome game. And he's like, oh, holy shit, I am so incredibly fucked. Also, part of this is because, like, the Otome game is, like, a super fantasy of, it is matriarchy is the term, I think. So, women rule the world that he lives in. And so, in this, all the guys are treated like complete crap, and it's kind of hilarious, the reversal of it, how extensive it is, because it's not like if you took typical misogyny and flipped it around. It is like the men are treated absolutely like garbage. Like it's not like they're treated like they're not people. It's like they're treated like they are only existing to serve the women. It's a hilarious reversal, and it causes a lot of trouble for main character. It's also, of course, an excuse for main character to not really go after many women, as we saw with the other one. But he uses his knowledge of the game, and right off the bat, like, he's like, oh, I'm gonna be heading out to high school next year, but if I head out to high school and I don't have anything to help me, I'm just gonna get destroyed. Like, I'm gonna end up being forced to marry some like 40-year-old hag at the age of 16, and it's just gonna be a political marriage, and it's gonna suck, and my life is gonna suck from then on. So he's like, okay, well, I know where this cheat item that I bought in the Otome game was hidden. So he sets out on an adventure, and he goes to find it, and he finds, I wonder if they have a picture of it in here, but he goes and he finds the super OP item that he had bought to cheat his way through the Otome game, and that is a wow, they really don't have any pictures of it, at least none early on, but it is a super powerful battleship that is left over from a previous war. The setting of this actually is pretty interesting, and there's a lot of backstory that keeps coming up, but also anytime there's a plot hole, they can just point at the Otome game and be like, it's an Otome game. It doesn't have to be written well. Just that's how they solve all the plot holes. So like, can't show that one on Twitch. Spicy. But the setting is like all floating islands, and so that everybody flies around in airships to get from island to island. Most lords own like their own island or a couple islands. So main character set out and found it. He knew where an abandoned, never discovered island was, discovered it, found the super old, ancient, powerful battleship Luxian on it, and because he looked Japanese, and apparently like the previous race of humans were Japanese people, the battleship decided to not murderize him. The battleship wants to murderize all the new humans, of course, because it lost a war between the non-magic and the magic humans. So there's like, the Japanese-looking humans were science users, and then everybody else was magic users, and they fought, and the humans lost. It is pretty interesting because a lot of the setting seems to be a lot of the setting is impacted by the way that works. Where there was an ancient war, and like it doesn't come up all the time, but it is hinted at a lot. It's actually a pretty compelling backstory and world building. But anyways, main character gets this battleship, and it's not like he can control the battleship. He has to ask the AI of it, Luxian, to do things. Him and Luxian don't exactly get along that great. Main character is super arrogant and super dumb. Luxian even points it out. Main character gets a super powerful robot. You can actually see it here. And when Luxian builds the robot, Luxian decides on the name of it, and he calls it Aragons. And main character's like, that's a cool name, not realizing that his AI is poking fun at him and how arrogant he is. Because the main character doesn't actually have anything that makes him himself overpowered at this point. All he has is the backing of a super OP battleship and the little floating orb representation of it that can turn invisible and gather intelligence for him. So all of his power is really dependent on his ship. But he wants to just go through this, and he's like, okay, well, I want to not interact with the main story at all. I don't want to deal with this. It's annoying. It's gonna suck. And the main plot of it is like, in the Otome game, you would play as this girl. She's like a commoner who got into the school on a scholarship. I was reading this at the same time as the I'm in Love with the Villainous series, and oh my god, I had trouble keeping these plots apart because they are very similar. It's hilarious how similar they are. I need to play an Otome game and see if this is just like a staple of the genre, because like they paralleled each other so hard, and I'm pretty sure they came out basically just coincidentally at a same time. But main character ends up getting involved with this chick, and she's like the saint of the gonna end up being the saint of the religion. She's the only person who has like healing magic ever, and he attracts her attention because he's just not an asshole to her, because everyone else is an asshole to her, but everyone's an asshole to him too. So he's like, okay, whatever, I'll be a little nice to her. And so they start actually hanging out, being friends, which then causes problems because all of the princes are supposed to get with her. But then there's a little bit more of a wrench in things. Main character's sister also died and ended up reincarnated in this from a completely different family. And she, knowing the game a little bit, decides that she wants to get the harem route. And she tries to gather up all the princes into her harem. And that causes a big wrench in things. But yeah, it's pretty fun. The battle scenes in this are they're actually the battle scenes in this are actually somewhat interesting, because the main character doesn't want to like kill people. He's not ready to actually fight seriously, but he's given way more power to fight, and that causes problems for him in some of the encounters where he's like fighting people that are trying to kill him seriously, and he doesn't overpower massively with his power suit. Or sometimes his companion Luxian is just like, no, I'm not going to do what you want, fuck you, and he's powerless. What can he do? So this is a pretty good, compelling story. I really like this one. It is a bit of an isekai power fantasy, but it is not nearly as bad as many of the others that I've read, because at the end of the day, he doesn't have any power beyond what he creates. So later on, he gets power by making friends and having goodwill. Like he has a little bit of a rap sheet going into his time at school, because he discovered an island, and that makes him pretty big and important. But he doesn't have much else beyond that. It's not like he's particularly good at fighting anything. If you put him in a regular or they call it mobile knights or something, if you put him in a regular mobile suit, he's not going to do fantastic. He's going to suck at it. He needs all of the power assists of his main armor suit to actually do well in any combat. There's also a fun trope in this of main character at the start. He's like, okay, well, I want to try to get up this societal rung enough that I'm just high enough up that I won't be too bothered. But if I get too high up, then I have a lot of obligations, and like the king will call on me, and that's a problem. So he doesn't want to try to get too high, but he keeps getting put up higher and higher and higher, because like he'll get put in situations where like he's in danger or his friends are in danger, and he just has to solve it, otherwise they all fucking die. And then as a result, they're like, oh yes, we're upgrading you to a Viscount. Congratulations, you're now even more powerful. And he's like, no, I don't want this. I just want to live a normal life. Leave me alone. So this one's pretty fun. Alright, this last one has a number of illustrations that can get me in trouble if I show them. Might get me in trouble if I show them. But this one's actually really good. I haven't been reading this one recently. I was rewatching the anime a little bit recently, and I need to reread this one because it is so good. It is a finished series. It is fantastic. It can be a little hard to get through, but it has a lot of themes that I like, and some tropes that I really like as well. Don't judge me. A sister's all you need. This is basically a slice of life. The author of this is the same guy who wrote Haganai, I Don't Have Many Friends. Sadly, that anime of that left off on a cliffhanger, and nobody has translated the light novels for it, so I can't finish Haganai, which really sucks. There was a fanlation project for Haganai, but some company licensed it and then never did anything with it, so they were sent a cease and desist, and nothing has happened since. The rough plot of this, let's see if there's a character. I don't think I can. Not that. That's too spicy. There you go. There's the main characters. The main plot of this is that you have main character, one of his friends, and then his yandere, not really yandere, but the girl thirsting after him. These three are authors. Main character is, can't show that illustration. Main character, all you need to do is read the title of this one. There you go. Main character is sister obsessed fuck. So main character is an author that is really good and is actually pretty successful, but the best one, yeah, this one's so good. This one seems like it's a goofy, trashy light novel, but it's actually really fantastic, I promise. Main character is a prolific author, or at least relatively prolific. He's not like super rich, super famous, but he sells basically anything he writes will sell for well enough, and he can live pretty comfortably as long as he keeps writing. But he writes he's like an author that just writes what is inspiring to him. So he writes little sister focused stories, and then his friend Haruto, the redhead, is a fairly talented author, but he writes he doesn't get inspiration. He's the guy who's worked hard for it, as is the trope. He looks at market trends and tries to see what's selling and writes what he thinks will sell well, and he can't keep up with main character. But then silver-haired girl Nayuta is an author who was inspired by main character's books, and she was like super depressed in school and bullied in school, and then she read one of main character's books and was inspired to become a writer, and she became a writer. And her first series, they reference all the time, the landscape series, was incredibly popular, and she outsells him by huge amounts, and their publisher will go to great lengths to get her to just do anything to write the next one. That's how prolific her series was and how good her series was. And so main character ends up reading one of hers, and he gets inspired to do even better. So that's one of the tropes that I really like. You know, he inspired her, and then she inspired him. And so this comes up pretty early in the books, but she is in love with him because of his works. And main character is like, yeah, you know, first time I met her, she confessed to me, yeah, I guess I'll go out with her. She's cute, why not? And then he read her book and went, no, I can't go out with her. Not until I am not until I'm an author on equal skill with her. Because he doesn't want to be remembered as Nayuta Kani's husband, who also writes. He wants to be known as Itsuki Hashima, the writer, who is also married to Nayuta Kani, the author, who is the author of the Landscape series, so he doesn't want to be overshadowed by her. But he's also not aiming to be overshadowing her. He wants to be her equal. And then you have the fun of is. Can I move this somewhere where it's not gonna just always be? No, I can't. But then you've got like his friend from college who's a little bit inspired by him, and his younger brother. And for the most part, the series is a slice of life. You have goofy things that go on because it's actually a pretty good. It's actually a really good scenario for a slice of life, because all of the characters except for Chihiro are like 18 plus. Nayuda, all of them are 18 plus except for his younger brother. Nayuda is 18. Everyone else is like 20, so they're all drinking age. The book will make you want to drink fancy beers so much. Oh my god, because they talk about beer all the time. A nice thing is that the author actually included an illustration of the main character's apartment, so you can visualize things a little better. I think this next one, no, that one's fine. This next one is no good. There's actually a lot of art, and there's a lot of art pages. A lot of them are character references here, so like parameters. Talent is through the roof. She's like the light novel author of this era, basically. And they do shenanigans. They play board games. This is the flashback back to when he was in college, because main character dropped out of college to write. Enjoyment of youth is her top skill, of course. But there's all sorts of shenanigans that they get into, and it's really good. There's drama. There's character drama that happens. Character growth. This is a very character-driven story, which is what I generally like in stories. I like the characters to grow. I like character development. I like the interactions between characters. But they just do goofy things. Like in the first book, I think main character just kind of fucks off and goes to like Okinawa and Hokkaido, because like he's an author, he can just do that. He does have enough money to do that. And then they get to have the taxes arc. Yeah, the taxes arc, where the sadistic lolly makes him admit to what a bunch of his adult porn games are, so that she can tax write them off. And then they have a D&D arc, where they just all make D&D characters and they play D&D. And that actually goes on for a while. And then there is an illustration I can't show in here. This one's fine. Yeah, that one can't. Nope. But the series is really good. It has a number of books. They are not actually that thick compared to like this. Oops, that beat the mic. Like this author clearly. This author doesn't seem to like to write as much as this one. I don't know if that's really a good way to put it, but like this author likes to write a lot. There's actually quite a lot in these books. A lot of exposition, lots of like world building, extra stuff beyond the main plot. These ones, each volume seems to be pretty short, probably because, I don't know, I would suspect that maybe the author of this is a bit struggling to write sometimes. so all of them end up being about the same amount of book. If I were to get the other volumes of this, they vary in thickness quite a bit, but usually they're about this thick or thicker. Versus this author is like always hitting the exact page count. But this is a very good series. I need to go back and reread this one because it's just so good. Oh, what else was there? Yes. The spin-off one, which, it doesn't have X-ray. The Heroic Knight of an Intergalactic Empire. This one is actually a fun spin-off of the evil Lord of the Intergalactic Empire. This kind of follows up on the running joke where in the other series the main character is like, I want to be an evil lord, and keeps being a good lord. And this main character, she's like, oh, I'm so inspired by our benevolent and heroic and just lord that I want to be just like him. And everyone else is like, okay, but you know that our Lord is like actually not a good guy, right? And she goes, no, he's totally just and good, and there's no way he could be bad. And she keeps trying to follow in his footsteps, and it's pretty funny because everyone's like, yeah, he's not as good as you think he is. No, he couldn't be bad. There's no way. And there's a thing that came up pretty early on. This isn't like peak literature or anything. This is just a goofy spin-off that is funny. But the main girl in this, she sees main character from the other series, Liam, fight and like save his domain, and she's inspired by that. So she wants to become a knight just like him, a knight for justice. And so she, as soon as she can, joins the group of knights to be able to, or she joins the track to become a knight. And so they establish in this that if you're a knight, you actually go under like some physical augmentation and whatnot. And she barely makes it through night school. She's like got all straight D's, just barely passing, and she gets through it. And then she goes out to like get her knight evaluation, where she's serving under an actual knight, and she can barely pilot her mecha, and like absolutely fails, and she gets ranked like a D rank knight and gets sent to the boonies with a falling apart battleship, and like everybody there is not motivated at all to do anything. And she says some line like, well, the only thing I was good at was piloting mobile knights. I forget what they call them. I was so good at that in that one simulator, and I at that point I go, oh, so you probably and the author also described it where she's like trying to pilot it, and the mobile knight is like way too slow to respond. I'm like, okay, so you learned how to pilot from a simulator without assist functions, or just like a higher spec machine. So you just haven't acclimated to a lower spec machine, which is actually kind of an understandable thing. In flight sims, you can get that sometimes, where someone flies like a non-fly-by-wire plane, and then they can struggle a bit with the fly-by-wire plane because it's not doing what they expect it to. It's doing what it's commanded to do. So like an F-16 is an example. You would if you pull back on the stick on an F-16, it's going to give you an amount of turn. It's going to turn the aircraft at a set G for the amount of stick deflection you give it, and then depending on other factors that may change. Versus like a World War II aircraft, if you pull back on the stick this amount, it's going to deflect the control surfaces that amount, and your plane is going to vary quite a lot in turning. And there's never a point where a World War II plane is going to override your command input. It's going to just do what you want it, even if that causes you to go into a spin. So it's kind of like that. Sometimes people have issues with the fly-by-wire aircraft if they've never flown one before. I don't really get that, although I did start on the F-16, so I had a little bit of trouble going from the F-16 to tail dragger aircraft, but that wasn't too bad. You just had to learn to not yank on everything and try to throw the controls hard. But this one's a lot of fun because she realizes that, oh yeah, okay, I'm given an experimental unit that has no assist functions and no one else can pilot, so she starts becoming good at piloting, and it's pretty fun. I guess I could talk about Amagi Brilliant Park, but maybe I should save that for later. If you have seen Amagi Brilliant Park the anime, I would recommend reading the books, because the books are quite a bit different. The anime covers things that happen throughout books like 1 through 4, but there's a lot of added stuff in the anime that didn't happen in the books. And in the books, there's like a major difference in the plot, for one thing. And I kind of don't really want to spoil that. So I would say read book 1 especially if you can. It's really good. It's really different from the anime. But Amagi Brilliant Park is written by Shoji Gato, the guy who wrote Full Metal Panic. And Full Metal Panic is a beautiful one. I want to reread some of Full Metal Panic and then do a review on that, because I have the collector's edition of Full Metal Panic. That's all of the books. It's a beautiful series. And as I mentioned before, I really like it when you have a main character who has to work for their overpowered ability, and that is Full Metal Panic. Because like in Full Metal Panic, main character gets pretty early on to like, oh, you get the robot with the lambda driver. What is a lambda driver? Well, the lambda driver literally turns your emotions into force, which like that's a thing in Gundam. That's a thing in Gundam, and I roll my eyes at that, because it just means that main character goes, I believe harder, and because he believed harder, his mech hits harder. Full Metal Panic, main character is given this lambda driver, and he's told that like it turns your emotions into force, and he just goes, this is bullshit, this is stupid, this is not a weapon. Like, how am I supposed to do that? How am I supposed to use something with my emotions? And because he's also a fairly like emotionally stunted person, because he's been a child soldier all of his life, and he's 16 and has been fighting since he was like, I don't know, 10. He can't really control his emotions or use the mech, and so there's a really good payoff when he actually can use it, and it's a great series. Absolutely recommend it. It might be a little hard to get your hands on it. I don't know. I haven't checked in a while. I wasn't able to get my hands on all the books until the collector's edition came out. And the collector's edition, honestly, if it's still priced at the original price, it's a really good deal for all the books, because each one is each volume is like 3 books, which would normally retail for like $10 each. and I think the books were each like $30, but they're hardcover, so that makes it a little cheaper for what you get. The other thing I had to talk about today, but since our coffee's gotten cold, I think it's going to be time to wrap it up. Yeah, our coffee's gotten cold. I think it's probably time to wrap it up. Maybe we'll do this next week, because when I was planning this, I think talking about light novels is probably going to be more appealing to a wider audience. However, what I want to cover is a little more appealing and on brand for me. And also, I get the benefit of a number of what I want to cover is actually public domain information, which means I could just open the book up and I could read it to you word for word, and I could not get in trouble for it. So I could do things like this. I have an entire A7 Corsair 2 pilot flight manual, and I could just open up to a random page and I could just read you things out of this. I think I'm probably going to go through this a bit more and notate it, because there's certain things that are going to be important for me when I try to fly this thing eventually when it comes out in DCS. But there's also just things that are interesting to note, because like one of the things I never realized is that this aircraft has like the older engine that it can mount is a smoky engine, as old jet engines tend to be, but it has an additive injection system that makes the engine less smoky, and it only has like 2 hours of that, so you can like engage that. It's really weird. It's an interesting workaround, but there's a lot of cool information in this thing for this aircraft. I am really excited to get this A7 in DCS at some point, because this aircraft is pretty advanced for its time. It's got a radar that can be operated by only one person. It has not just a gun sight, it has a heads-up display. So this is like, if we go from an F-16 and we try to go back in time, this has a lot of stuff that we look at and we go, this is what an F-16 has. There's a really good page for this that I can't remember where it is. Let me try to find it. Ejection C stuff. I think it was during the carrier landing stuff. I don't know where it is, and I don't think I really want to dig through it, but like, this has the landing bracket similar to what the F-16 has. It has a CCIP, constantly calculated impact point HUD showing bomb mode that looks very similar to like what the F-16 uses. It's got a 0-0 ejection seat, which is great. It also has it actually has an auto throttle for landing, which apparently you see fairly often on carrier aircraft. So it's quite an advanced aircraft for its time, and I'm really looking forward to flying it in DCS and learning more. But let's go find a person to raid. I'll get out of your guys' hair. Oh, Yonagiri is doing ASMR. Let's throw you guys over to her for more comfy times. Alright, raid started. Make sure you give Yoni a nice use my keyboard. Of course that's not gonna work. Oh, 'cause there we go. Make sure you give Yoni a nice raid message, and I might be back tonight, maybe. We'll see if I've got something to do. But probably tomorrow. Bye-bye.